Kabbalah for Complete Life Management, Chapter 6, Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. Kabbalah therapy, the therapy of receiving in the right way. Forces in the universe and in beings are to be seen as wavelengths. We have weak, long wavelengths, FM, and through this we can receive through local transmitters. The middle wavelengths are for Europe, and the short wavelengths are for the US and Australia. We also have radar, which are wavelengths with a far larger reach, and with this we can control ships, etc. But above this there are wavelengths that no apparatus can receive the forces of. These are the inner part of the universe, and these are in agreement with the inner being of man. With our inner being, we can travel where no space shuttle can go. Space shuttles can go only where material is. It is possible for the inner to go to the point where the material mass changes into the zero. In the outer being, and all the apparatus are tools for the outer being, we see the whole scale of short and long wavelengths, and they can only reach the point of material. Even the cosmos and the stars are in a way material. Even the Lurian and the laser wavelengths are, although very thin, radiation of material wavelengths. The inner being is reflecting and receiving the shortest and strongest wavelength. One does treat swellings with chemotherapy, etc., but the wavelength of the inner being is far stronger. This therapy will lead us to an ultimate development. All problems will be relieved by the therapy of the Kabbalah, because Kabbalah is the therapy of the right receiving. One doesn't need any technology for this. What we need is the knowledge of the laws of the universe and to come in agreement with these laws. This is enough. We only have to learn how to receive. Place of diseases in the human being. We can find illness on the boundary of the inside of the outer being. In the area of the good and evil is where we see the roots of diseases. One becomes ill because one doesn't live in agreement with the laws of the universe. This is the breeding ground. In the control system of the universe there are no diseases. Only when one doesn't live according to the instructions and laws of the universe, then physical and psychological diseases manifest. Illness is a warning. It is a message to attract the good. The outer being hasn't our interest. Diseases are manifesting themselves first at the surface of the outer being. When one doesn't listen, it comes through the system and the disease can become chronic. It is all a matter of dwelling. When one does something wrong for the first time, it isn't a dwelling. Making one mistake can be part of the growing process. Making the same mistake for the second time, still it isn't a dwelling. Of course, it has grown, but only when one makes the same mistake for the third time, it becomes a disease, a habit, or we make a standard of it. After the third time, it will become easier to go along. There's no difference between drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, or looking at the telly. All of this can be named addiction from the outer being. Drugs are affecting only the outer being. Dementia is a disease of the outer being. The inner being is whole and vivid. In the inner part of every person there is the shining of the sun, and there is no exception. Even the inner being of a person with Down syndrome is whole and vivid. And this is also for them. We are lying in a coma. But the outer being is different. Through the eyes of the true reality, everyone is good. In the eyes of the light, everyone is perfect, whole, because at one point he will be corrected. Only when he's on earth in a specific body, he can do his personal corrections and bring himself to wholeness. Everyone has his personal root, and all the roots are good. We can see through the outer eyes only the outside. It is the outer being that can have pity for a person. Therefore, constantly there has to be the difference between the inner, the true, and the outer, material being where the truth is not revealed and invisible. The attitude with the Kabbalah master. Making yourself small isn't enough. During the lessons, the wavelengths are much shorter. Words are only the outer form to bring over the inner strength. The laws of the universe are not simple to pick up. You have to learn them, and through this you can bring yourself in agreement with them. It is the area of the inner being. We don't study the outer being. It is not a subject in the study of Kabbalah. The subject of our study is the area of the good and evil within a person, because here we have work to do. By working on ourselves, we can become, or we come in agreement with ourself, and with all other people. Religions are preparation for the true inner work on you. The beginning of the Kabbalah lies far away from the earthly and material knowledge. In the Kabbalah, you have to make yourself small, tiny, a making small of the outer being. It will become easier for the inner being to harass this area and to let it grow. This is what the Kabbalah master is doing in every lesson with every person. Even the Kabbalah master has his area of the good and evil where he has to work. How can he treat your outer being? Through this inner being, the Kabbalah master harasses your inner being, and not with his outer being, because the outer being isn't the subject for correction. There was, is, and there will never be a person who can receive wholeness in his outer being. The Kabbalah master is learning from the most secret sources of the light, and he knows how to make himself receptive for the short wavelengths. Through this, he can focus on the outer being and is capable to make openings in the inner being, because there is hidden the high light. Then, the task of the Kabbalah master is to focus on the area of the good and evil, and he does do this with words and strengths. All that is happening can be seen as cleansing of your windows. It is a very deep process. You start breathing deep within yourself. Slowly, all the cells of your inner being are opening. But of course, the cooperation of the student is necessary. If you come to the Kabbalah training, and once at home you're going to nag, for example, you will lose your energy. The outer being is the one who's spoiling the energy and makes you exhausted. Also at home, you have to work 100% on your inner being, and all that you have learned, you have to apply. Dutch people had fought the sea and had fought for land to live on. Now, you have to fight to find the land of your life. The goal of all the work is to open more and more cells, the opening to the inner being. And the task of the Kabbalah master is to guide you to your inner being, and he does this by cleansing the windows. And when this is happening, you have your own relation with your inner being, and through the inner being with the light. Afterwards, the Kabbalah master and the student are colleagues, and now they can go further, together or separate, on their way. Once you have come to the experiencing of your inner being, it is possible to give your wishes in a right way with the short wavelengths directed to the light. You will be astonished. From a place of the inner part of the universe, you will receive the good, and you will reach your goal because now you are on the same wavelength. And this energy will go through your outer being, and the good that is deep within you will come to the surface. Once you have reached the feedback, every problem lies within your reach to be solved in a successful way. Drawing 7. Interaction between teacher and student. Please refer to the written material. By making himself small from within, the student will become more receptive, so now he can take in all what the teacher is saying and bring about in his inner. The teacher makes himself smaller and lower than any student because only in this way he can give. He neglects during the lesson his outer being and his area from good and evil. Through this, his area becomes more transparent and shines with the inner strength. Coming from the inner strength of the teacher, now his words, drawings, gestures, etc. can flow directly to the student. It goes through the area of the outer of the student to the border of his area of good and evil. It is within this area the teacher fires and stimulates the good within this area, for now he can grow. And within the student starts to grow his inner spiritual pores. See drawing A, B, and C, by which his area of good and evil will be taken in by the good more and more. The increasing of the good will be added to his inner being and will never be taken away from him. As you know, the deeds of a human are only reaching to the area of this good and evil, but the area of his inner being always stays intact. The same relation as we see here between the teacher and the student is also valid in all other ways of interaction, whereby there is a true form of the giving and of a legitimate form of receiving. Beauty can't save the world. What do we mean by this? The Hellenistic world, and according to the Roman Empire, were focused on the outer part: philosophy, gymnastics, sculpture, ethics, building bridges, etc. They brought ethics in the world, and with a lot of gratitude we make use of it. But beauty alone can't make a healthy foundation under the inner ground. If one is making images, he places an obstacle between his outer and his inner being. His true being has gone. But however, if one is constructing his inner being, he develops the most beautiful things in his life. But they will not save us because they are the outcome of his self-love, and they need correction. The connection with the inner being. Resistance for the seductions. To learn Kabbalah is to experience and to observe the inner. Only by experiencing ourselves we will learn more about ourselves. First, there is the experience of the outer being. What you do with your outer being is only for you, in contrary with the forbidden laws outside the inner being. Seductions mean you don't have the strength to say no. One only can learn from his experiences, and from his experience he can build up strength. For example, to win a huge amount of money in the lottery can be very dangerous if you have not built up the strength of your inner being. For how strange it may sound, you have to get used to richness. When you win the lottery, your thoughts will constantly be busy with the outer being, and through this you will lose yourself. Even the strength you have built up in your inner being will be broken. When a person dies, there is a kind of a relief. Why? The outer being stops pushing him. Then you see the inner side, but together we see the physical death. To be in the now is to feel the true energy. The light is manifesting itself only in the now. This gives you the feeling of becoming a champion. So don't wait till the moment you're going to die. Try to live in every situation as it was the last moment of your life. Through this, you will near the now moment. To be focused in the now will help you not to live in the future, and there is no time for worrying. Even loneliness will be gone. There is no time for dwelling. Living in the moment, in the now, is the highest form of life. Receiving in the right way. The meaning of the path of life is to bring you in agreement with the laws of the universe. In doing so, you're building up within you the strengths that are in agreement with the strengths within the light. The only place where we can find the strength of the universe is in the big hole within ourselves. There we will find an enormous strength. What you have to do is to make the inner layers receptive for these strengths, to let these strengths penetrate you. For the light, we are beings of a very rough material, and it is up to us to come in agreement with the light. Everything is within the light. We are only building up a rough copy of the light. Our I am. The big hole within me. In the light we can find qualities as wholeness, durability, and invariability. Bringing ourselves in agreement with the light means we also bring the same qualities in ourselves. It is the world of experience. The light shining within us has an enormous power. The deeper we go, the shorter and more powerful these wavelengths will be. And with this energy we can move mountains. But the problem is doubt and a lack of surrendering on the pure, true life. We also have resistance for the light, and this is the area of our work. The light is making matrices in you because it is so powerful. The more you can come in contact with your inner being, the deeper the light comes within your personality. But you have to know, the flesh will never be corrected. It slowly disappears when you go beyond the mind. Because to bring heavy material in movement, heavy power is needed. You can compare this with the launching of a rocket. After a while, the weight isn't balanced. Through the agreement in qualities, you can come to the printing of the wholeness of the light in yourself. It is me who makes myself receptive for the light, and now the light can make a matrix inside of me. The light penetrates me, it makes an impression in me, or in other words, it puts a stamp in me. This is a legal way of receiving the light. When you make yourself receptive to love, everything and anything, you will come in agreement with the source of life. Remember, what you're learning in and from the Kabbalah has nothing to do with the physical body. You have to wake up within yourself a place of strength. There has to be an understanding of the heart instead of the head. The head is ending, just all the earthly thoughts. The heart is full of earthly wishes. Learn to go beyond your mind. Around every head of a human being there is an aura, and you have to learn to bring this aura within you. The reality will become easier. Because of the love for yourself, there is no vacancy for your true I. As long as the aura stays outside of you, you will have the feeling the future is somewhere outside of you also. What you feel is seduction, and through the seduction you don't live in the now. The shining of the aura gives you the feeling of expectation. There will be a change in you through your inner work, but old situations will stay in existence. What you receive is extra. To move has a different meaning in the inner world than in the material world. There has to be the willingness of experiencing a new event. Some events are signals from above. You have to accept and to learn from these signals. Don't hide them. React and seek the confrontation, but in the right way. Look at them with your goal in mind. Don't mourn too long. Don't live either in the past or in the future, but in the now. Don't think you will be guided. It is living in the past. 3 types of persons with qualities you can use for your inner work. These 3 types are: 1. He who has a great fantasy. 2. He who is a bodybuilder. 3. He who is a charlatan. Number 1, the person who has a great fantasy doesn't want to live according to the daily routine. He wants to be creative. It is the same for us. We also have a picture of the future, but what we're doing is to bring the light that is around our head within. 2, he who is a bodybuilder has a lot of discipline and is consistent. He doesn't drink and is very picky in what he eats. He has a goal in mind. The building up of his physical body and muscles are higher than fat. A bodybuilder can achieve a lot. It is the same for us. We have to be as bodybuilders, but for our inner being. This work also needs discipline and perseverance. In a way, we are inner Arnold Schwarzeneggers. 3, the charlatan is someone who works in a very cunning way, and you too have to be very cunning to reach your goal. In the inner work, you will meet your ego, and the ego is much stronger than you are. You have to play a game with your ego, but a very serious play. You have to overcome the ego. Overcome, but not kill. In a way, you need the ego. At the end of the correction, the remainder of the ego will bring us the strongest light. But for now, you have to play with your ego and feed it now and then. You have to calm down and to satisfy your ego, otherwise the ego will thwart you. For example, a person wants to stop smoking cigarettes. He has to lay down everywhere a package of cigarettes, and when he sees one, he has to say, later. This gives the ego hope. After having done an exercise with our inner being, we will feel an inner pain, just as when we have pain after physical training. You have to build up slowly. The more you can endure, the more happiness you will experience afterwards. What is happiness? The more you limit yourself, the faster the proceeding will go. When there is a lack in the limitation, it means there's a lack in confidence. You have to limit the stitches you feel inwardly. When there is an outer feeling of stitches, you can use as an ointment. There has to be limitation, but it has to be limitation with happiness. If not, it is useless. In the higher, there is unity, although it may be seen as controversial in the material world. For the outer person, restriction is something he doesn't like, but the inner loves it. When there is no resistance from the inner, you have to go beyond your reason, even when it will hurt the outer being. So what is happiness? Happiness, joy, is a condition needed to progress for the unity with the higher or for the next step in the inner. It is the feeling of uplifting, and this can only be done in happiness. A wish always comes from a situation of shortness. So how can I feel or do this with joy? When there is no joy in your request will be as nagging. Joy or happiness is a sign of sincerity. In a way, there is joy when you go to a surgeon because you know afterwards you will be released from your pain. A limitation for the limitation isn't right. It is a primitive way of thinking, and as we see in every religion, it doesn't work. Only with joy and happiness you can come to fulfillment. To receive the light by way of a screen. All the 4 forms in nature receiving light and pleasure. When a person wants to receive the light, he has to build up a screen within him. This is a system of filters from different kind of letting through coming above the inner organs of awareness. And through this, he can come in interaction with the incoming light. The screen is to be seen as the added power to overcome the self-love, and through this strength he can come to the interaction with his inner being. The screen makes us receptive to the light. In the universe is a system from rough upgrading of the light, and this is named the control system. This upgrading of screens and filters are there to veil the light more and more. All of this is needed for a person so he can build up the screens, and in the same amount he will receive the right quality of light. Light is filling the world in agreement with the control system of the universe. Screens are everywhere, and they can let the light go through or take the light. Even the greatest scientist makes use of small ray of light in the amount he can handle as a person. It is up to us how much of the light we can receive. We only have to learn to build up the screens over and over again. Drawing number 8. Interaction between the coming light and the entry channels. The reflecting light is the light that uses the inner being to confront the coming light. First there is rejection, then reflection to cover it. Then he makes calculations. What he can handle, he let come in. The coming light strikes the screen of the entry channels from the inner being and tries to enter. This is because of the law the light always wants to give. So, the screen willpower, or the measure of the opposition to liberate oneself from the wish to receive for oneself permanently. Without a screen, nobody can build up a personal relation with the light and will not come eventually to his ultimate fulfillment. Entry channels are wishes that want to receive for themselves or have the intention to give. The condition to experience and to receive the light is the entry channels and the light have to be in agreement with each other regarding qualities. Refer to the drawing in the written materials. Drawing number 8.